Hello class, this is a continuation of creating network diagrams from activity charts. In this video we'll be looking at what's known as dummy activities. In some instances of creating an activity network, we come across multiple activities that have shared prerequisites. We kind of saw this in the previous video, but here's an example of if you actually try and draw this out as an activity network, you'll come across rather difficult situations, such as C and D require B, but E requires A and C. Okay, so it's these multiple stems and multiple branches, but they come to one point. So in situations such as these, we can use what's known as dummy activities, and this is just a tool that assists us in constructing the activity network. Dummy activities are blank activities. There's no weight and there's no label. And it's just a tool for the situation I've shown here above. Once all the activities have been properly connected, a complete activity network must contract or simplify dummy activities where possible. You can only contract dummy activities if it's the only edge that leaves a vertex or enters a vertex. And let's do an example of what this might look like. Here we go. So here's a rather large activity network, and we have multiple activities branching out and also coming back in together. So as before, let's begin with the start vertex, those that don't need any prerequisites. So activity A, let's actually make this a little bit larger. Oops. There we are. Let's let this be activity A. You can fast forward this at any time, trying to be nice and neat here. So that's activity A with weight 1. That's A, 1. Activity B, with weight 2. So that's these two done. C comes from A. That's nice and simple. That's C with a weight of 2 again. And D comes from B. That's also nice and simple. That's D. Weights of 5. Now here's where we require a dummy activity, well, 2. E requires C and D. Kind of demonstrated this before in the previous video, but I'm making it more explicit now. So C and D should now meet at one point. So C and D, they meet at one point. Whoops. There we go. C and D meet at one point for E. So that is now E. Which is weight of 3. So whenever you have multiple prerequisites for one activity, you create a dummy activity where they both meet at one point. You might see dummy activities drawn with dotted lines like this. Whichever way you'd like to do it, they both should just be blank. So there's no weight edge on this and no title. Moving along, F also needs C. So we don't use this activity anymore because F only needs C. So let's branch off here. Let's let this be F. Let's make it a slight longer here. That's F. That comes from C. F of 1. And notice how again E and F are required for G. Again, these two meet at one point. So let's draw that. It's E and F. So they're both meeting at one point. I apologize if this is taking quite a bit of time. I'm just trying to keep this as neat as possible. Drawing this by freehand is a lot faster, but also be mindful on how neat you show your information. So these two are dummy activities where they meet at one point. But remember, these are dummy activities that we've just drawn. So you can draw these also as dotted lines like so, if you'd like. Preferably you should. And then from this combined vertex, we draw G. That's G, whoops, yep. Which is a weight of 4. And lastly, okay, because I'm running out of space, that branches off to the end vertex. So that's the finish. That there is the finish. However, this is not a completed network just yet. We still need to simplify this network. And it should be as follows. Now remember, you can contract a dummy activity if it's the only edge that leaves or enters a vertex. Okay, so the only one that leaves a vertex or enters a vertex. Let's focus on this activity first. This one here. This activity is the only one that leaves this vertex. But it's one of two that enter this vertex. This is still allowed because it's the only one that leaves the vertex. Well, if that's the case, we can contract this with this one, and say that this is all one edge. So D could have been drawn as one edge directly to E. Let's now take a look at this vertex here. This one here. Notice how it's not the only one that leaves, because from this vertex we have two edges that leave, 1 and 2. So this edge cannot be contracted. Let's focus on this edge, this dummy activity. Well, this is the only activity. If you look at this vertex, it's the only activity that leaves the vertex. It's the same case for this one here. It's the only activity that leaves that vertex. Because it fulfills those conditions, we can actually contract or simplify this top vertex. So F, whoops, actually yes, F could have been drawn directly to G, which is what I'll do here. Whoops. So F could have been drawn like so. And E it's the only one that leaves the vertex, this one can also be drawn directly to G, like so. This is a rather not the neatest network, but this is a demonstration of how we could have used a dummy activity in order to draw a network with multiple branches and multiple points where they meet. This has gone longer than I expected. I'll do another example in the next video. In actual fact, you can take a look at this, pause it, and give it a go yourself, and I'll see you then. Best of luck.